And I'm thrilled to now be joined by Florida head coach Mike White. Mike, thanks for being here, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Rob, how about yourself?
I'm always good, man. I'm always good. Are you excited to get back to something close to normalcy this season? I mean, how fired up are you to find a congregation? And I Googled the group of alligators. That's the right word. A congregation of rowdies this year in the Odo.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, we've got a great student section, one of the best in the country, of course. And I think all of us in college athletics and in college basketball, of course, are really looking forward to hopefully more normalcy. It's right around the corner. We're anxious to get going.
So obviously the big story of the offseason for you guys is the status of Keontae. As of this recording, there really isn't anything new to report. And, what I'm curious about, it's not necessarily him physically. This is a young man that had his dreams ripped away through no fault of his own in the middle of what was probably the most stressful year that many of us have ever had. So I'm just kind of curious, how is he handling that mentally? And what have you done to try to help him cope with it and try to help with him live this new reality that he's living right now?
We've got a close relationship, of course. Keontae's got many close relationships. He's got a tight knit family. He's got unbelievable parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles. He's really close with his teammates. He's the type of guy that's got authentic, real relationships with others, and he's got many of them. So he's fighting through it. Of course, it was a really, really tough year for everyone. Him in particular. I mean, what he's gone through, I just can't imagine many have gone through. He's handled it in amazing fashion. We're talking about helping him get through it. He helped all of us get through it. You know, he really did. The way that he shows up to practice every day, the way that he shows up to office, to weight workouts, individual workouts, the stamp that he continues to have on this program, you know, the leadership that he provides, he's been amazing, and he's going to be a huge success in life, regardless of what happens with him in basketball.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that he is doing well. All right, let's talk about this year's team. You have Tyree Appleby back, you have Colin Castleton back, and you have Anthony DeRigi back. But you also have 6 newcomers that you're trying to kind of bring into the fold. How do you as a coach help develop chemistry on a roster that's going to kind of be this new and hasn't really had the chance to play together as much?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think you have a better chance at higher level chemistry if you recruit, target, attract, sign like-minded individuals, right? Guys with high character that want to win at a high level. And you try to do that year in and year out. And of course, in our sport, only one guy's got the ball. Only one guy can lead you in scoring. Only 5 guys can start, of course. So we've got to sift through some of that stuff. But I like the level of character of the guys that we've brought in. They're working really hard. The work ethic, the camaraderie is at an all-time high, really. And I really like our experience where even though it's not Florida Gator experience, we've got guys that have played and had success, put up numbers for a long time at this level, you know, at least at the Division I level. So it'd be the oldest team that we've had. A lot of it will happen organically, of course, but we also put these guys in positions where we make them communicate with one another. You know, we put them in tough positions, of course, in early fall workouts. So all of that is happening right now as we speak.
It probably also helps that you have veteran guys coming in instead of a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old freshmen that are going to kind of be playing those roles. One of my theories last year was the hardest thing that some of these teams had to deal with was the fact that you didn't get to play over the summer. Like my take is that a lot of these guys figure each other out when they're just playing pickup in the gym, 5-on-5, picking teams, whoever you got, you just go out there and play. That's kind of how you learn. You know, if you're a point guard, where does this guy like the ball? If you're a big guy, how does this guy like a screen set? Where is he going to throw the ball when I'm rolling to the rim, whatever it is? Do you think that's going to help this season? You have more of a chance for something close to a regular off season?
Yeah, I think it won't hurt. You know, each one of our programs is different, and some programs probably, I'm just using our league for an example, do more in the summer than others. You know, some programs, you hear through the grapevine, or you got coaching buddies out there that'll tell you they don't do much in the summer at all, other than strength and conditioning. So I think it'll help certain programs for sure that rely on that. Getting to basketball a little bit earlier. Guys play pickup a little bit more maybe than some other programs. We're probably middle of the road here In our off seasons, we do a lot of individual stuff. We do a ton of stuff in the weight room, speed, quickness, strength, all that type stuff. But it doesn't hurt, for sure, to have more, of a normal look of what we're doing.
So you got Myron Jones coming in, you got Brandon McKissick, Flanders Fleming. Who surprised you? Who has impressed you so far in some of these workouts?
Oh, I would say probably the four older transfers have all just been a pleasant surprise in terms of their consistency, their work ethic, their excitement level to be here at the University of Florida. Those guys have been really good. It's we've had classes that were highly ranked, that were highly touted or what have you, that were the makeup were a lot younger. We brought in 5 freshmen, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. These guys, the talent level could be comparable, but when you're bringing in 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, as opposed to 17, 18-year-olds, it's a little bit different, of course, for obvious reasons. So that's been, just the aura in the gym is just a little bit older. And does that necessarily lead to more wins or a better team? Not necessarily, of course, but it gives you a different look. And it's been refreshing so far. Hopefully that turns into us being a pretty good team.
Now, I'm going to come clean on something here. Flanders Fleming is one of my favorite players in college basketball, not just because he averaged 20 a game last year, not just because he was Defensive Player of the Year on a team that went 3-18. It's because he may have the best name in college hoops. So please tell me that this kid's going to end up being a star for you guys. He's got to be.
The Flan man. He's an old soul. He's really funny, dry sense of humor, got leadership skills, great family, great motor. He brings it every day, really competitive. He's a good player.
So Trey Mann's gone. That's going to be one of the big shoes that you have to fill this season. I've always thought players like him were just so valuable at the college level because, if the set that you call doesn't end up working, there's 10 seconds on the clock. You can just kind of say, all right, Trey, go make something happen. Go get us a shot. How are you going to replace that ability this year?
Yeah, tough, man, tough by committee. But you said it, Rob. We had a really good play in. It was late clock, and we called it, give it to Trey and get out of his way and give him space, go get us one tray. He was a great late clock player, of course, hit some huge shots. Unfortunately, only had a year where he showed everyone, especially the second half of his sophomore year, what he was capable of. But we're so happy for him and what he's accomplished. He's gonna be a star at that level, in my opinion, just like he was at this level for a long time. We got to do it by committee. I think that some of these older guards, Tyree Appleby, Colin Castleton, of course, some of these returners, DeRugi, CJ Felder, we hadn't talked a lot about, on this call here. They all have chances. But I think, over time we'll figure out, as a team whose hands we want the ball in late clock.
So you mentioned Colin Castleton. I do want to talk about the big fella a little bit. He kind of broke out at the start of SEC play. I did not necessarily see it coming. Did you see that kind of year coming out of him? And what are you expecting out of the big fella this year?
No, we'd all be lying if we told you he'd average the numbers that he did and play the amount of minutes that he did. We recruited him out of high school, Rob, and so it was a 4-year process or what have you of understanding what his ceiling could be. When he got here, it happened a little bit quicker than we thought. He actually had his hands full with some competition, at that spot with 2 or 3 other guys that are talented in their own right, and he just won the spot. I will tell you, after 2 or 3 weeks of practice, we had a pretty good idea that he was going to win that starting spot and play a lot of minutes. And in fact, when he signed, we weren't even sure he was going to get a waiver and be eligible. There was a real chance he was going to have to sit a year. So a little bit of a surprise. After a few games there, we realized he potentially could have a really big year. And then, of course, he really stepped up in Keontae's absence.
So Anthony DeRugi, CJ Felder, Colin Castleton, you got a lot of size this year. Is this the kind of thing where you're going to be playing a bigger lineup? Are you going to try to go 4 out again? Like what's it looking like this season?
Yeah, a lot of 4 out, a lot of 5 out, Rob. We've been thinking with some 5 out stuff. We could play potentially some small ball stuff, with CJ and DeRugi. Jason Jatobo continues to fight his way into shape. He's you can't coach his size, of course, and he's got a really good skill level. Junior college signee late summer in Gatkeck, Tune Gatkeck, who's got a chance to be very good too. He's got to gain some weight. So we've got some depth up front, but in terms of like high level college production, we've got to get more next to Colin, of course.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the last thing I got for you, you've been to 4 straight NCAA tournaments. You won a game in all 4 of those tournaments. You haven't gotten out of the first weekend of the big dance since 2017. You've never finished outside of the top half of the league, but since 2017, you haven't really pushed for an SEC title. Now, that's something that probably 95% of coaches would be very, very happy with. That's a very successful, good program. You're also at a school that's won 2 national titles, and I know kind of the expectation and the standards that you hold yourself to. So how do you kind of navigate expectation and quantify success in a place where there's 357 teams and only one person can call themselves champions?
Sure. All we can do on a daily basis, Rob, is grow. That's our daily goal. Let's grow. Let's get better. That's it. The expectation externally is no greater than it is internally. No one wants to win at a higher rate than we do as a staff, as an administration, and hopefully as a roster, of course, year in and year out. And, our season goal is to max out. I don't know what that means. I don't know how good this team will be, but we're not going to pay a lot of attention to this guy says this guy wrote that, what have you. Let's max out. We can control that, right? Have a better chance of controlling that at least. And then obviously your program goal here at the University of Florida is to win another national championship. It will happen again. I really feel like we can, as a staff, we can accomplish that. But we've got to worry about those first 2 goals first, to put us in position potentially to do that.
Well, listen, Mike, I appreciate the time and I wish you the best of luck this season. And hopefully it's going to be a little bit more normal than the last 2 years have been.
Yeah, no kidding. Thanks, Rob.
Before we move on, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up for Bet Rivers yet, now is the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just 1 playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, it's more secure, and it's more reliable. Now that basketball season is tipping off, get in on the action at betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while I got you here, let's talk about the Field of 68 Media Network, where college basketball matters most all year round. This is a digital media and podcast network that we've been building over the course of the last year. We have shows hosted by some of your favorite players covering the program that they love the most. AJ Guyton hosts the House of Hoosier. Eric Devendorf covers Syracuse on the scorer's table. Dan Dickow hosts the Gonzaga Bulldog broadcast. We have Florida's Patric Young and Duke's Andre Dawkins and North Carolina's Shammond Williams and Michigan's Stu Douglas and Illinois' Deion Thomas. The list goes on and on and on. We have more than 30 shows right now. So hit the links below and check them all out. And while you're at it, make sure that you go check out the Field of 12 Media Network, your home for college football. Now, that was Florida head coach Mike White, and I am now joined by 2 people that know Gator hoops, as well as anyone, longtime beat writer Chris Harry, as well as former center and current Young and the Rowdies podcast host, Patric Young. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Hello, Rob.
Oh, hello, Rob. Hello, Rob. Hello, Rob.
So
I'm doing great, man. I wouldn't say I'm obviously not an expert like Chris Harry, but I know 1 or 2 things here and there. Hopefully, I had more than 2 words today.
Rob, he's lived Gator basketball. I've just watched and written about Gator basketball, so it's in his blood.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we have you here, just because it looks like Patrick forgot his sleeves today. So
yeah, that's right.
I'm allergic, man.
If I had his arms, I'd forget my sleeves a lot also.
Yeah, me too. Chris, I want to start it like this. So you're around this group as much as anyone is. And from the outside, it kind of feels like this is a season that is exactly the kind of reset that the program needed after dealing with the aftermath of Keontae's health scare, combined with the season where everybody was isolated because of the coronavirus. So am I right in that sense that it's a good way to kind of get back into the swing of things for this group?
Yeah. I mean, when you go back to last season, and there was so much optimism going into the year. Keontae Johnson, as everyone knows, was the preseason Southeastern Conference Player of the Year. And to have that occur in the fourth game of the season in front of them. It'd be one thing if maybe it happened when they were back at their dorm or something. The nature of everything that happened, and I'm sure if you talk to Mike White would tell you there was a time last season in the immediate aftermath of Keontae's collapse that they wondered if they collectively wondered if they even wanted to go on with the season, and that's why they had to cancel some games. I think they canceled 4 games over the holiday break. Florida's record would have looked a lot different. They had 4 bye games. Technically, and when you look at it, it would have been big favorites and all those. Their record would have looked a lot different, but they had to remake themselves on the fly. And there were some good times during that. There were some bad times during that. But at the end of the year, Florida was back in the NCAA tournament. They won a game. They lost on the doorstep of the Sweet 16 to Oral Roberts, a 15 seed, a game that by all accounts they should have won. And they did not make the plays, and Oral Roberts did to kind of send the season into something of a missed opportunity kind of feeling. So you mentioned reset. Yes, they've done that. They've reset like every other college basketball team, it seems, has reset by bringing in a bunch of new players. Transfers are now the business model for college basketball in 2021. A lot of people thought Florida had a bunch of people leave. They had 4 guys leave. Okay, Georgia had 9. Texas A&M had 9. Arkansas, I think, had 7. A lot. LSU had 5. Vanderbilt had 6 or 7. A lot of teams have players leaving now, and they're remaking, like you said, on the fly. This is reset. And Florida, what they did, they went out and got some pretty productive mid-major and a couple high major players, and they're going to be a much, much older team this season than they have been in quite some time. Since that guy in the tank top has been here.
Yeah, you mentioned how old they are, but I think one of the unique things about this is that they're old, but they have a whole bunch of new faces. Like, these guys are coming in from different programs, and yes, they've played before, but it's also they haven't played together. They haven't been like White system. So Patrick, let me ask you this. You've been in a lot of different locker rooms, both at the collegiate level and the professional level. How hard is it to get that many new faces to gel, and how long does it take to kind of get everybody on the same page and in lockstep with what those coaches want in the system that they run?
Well, I know it starts at the head. It starts with the coach and how well he does his recruiting, and not only the promises you would say or whatever pitch they use to get the kids to come there, but also that his actions are in line with in which that he recruited those players. So I have no doubt in my mind that Coach White was straight up and told the guys that he was recruiting like it is, and what he expected, what he expects, what he believes, or the vision that he sees for them, and that ultimately they're going to have to earn their spot. It doesn't matter what you did before. It doesn't matter what ranking you are or how high of a transfer you were on the list. You're going to need to come in here and work and have a good attitude and be a great teammate, because at the end of the day, in comparison, I can think about European basketball, that every year, that I've played, it's almost as though 5 or 6 new guys were coming in to a new team every year, and those guys would need to mesh. A lot of times there'd be egos, or there'd be pride, or there'd be hidden incentives of somebody wanting to achieve a personal goal. But at the end of the day, something Coach Donovan would always reiterate to us is that when we win, everybody's happy, everybody wins. It's not about the individual. It's not about being on the worst team and being the leading scorer. So just really believe that Coach White's going to get these guys to dive in, and it started with the offseason, having a chance to talk to Preston. A lot of these guys, and what's difficult too is some of these guys have experience getting a different type of coaching style. So it's really going to be interesting how the coach has to navigate those things of like, when can I really get on this guy, or when can I not, when I need to back off, or whatever it may be to be able to get the best out of him. But I have no doubt in Coach White's recruiting ability that he not only gets high level talent guys, but also high character.
If I can piggyback off on that, I mean, you talk about these guys coming in, these older guys, and like Patrick said, when you win, we all win. Just remember now, here's the fine line with these guys. I mean, you're talking about guys that have come in that I did some numbers here. They're averaging 84 games in there of experience and 64 starts. These guys, a couple of them have almost 100 starts. A couple of them have scored 1,300, 1,500 points in their career, and they're playing 30 minutes, like 32, 35 minutes a game. They're not going to be playing that this year. How's that? And coaches are going to have to manage these guys that are used to being the best players on their team. Now they're saying all the right things right now. It's about winning. We're coming here and we know we have to sacrifice some things. It's one thing to say it here in September. It's another thing to live that when the minutes are being doled out in the middle of games and what have you. So that's a fine line the coaches are going to have to figure out. But if the players are really being honest about it, and they came here to become the best players they can be and play in a great league like the SEC, coming from Summit League or the Southern Conference, and to test themselves, how are you going to handle it when you're only playing maybe in a game 19 minutes or 22 minutes? That's something they're not used to. It's something that we won't even know until the season gets going.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that depends on what those players are transferring up for, right? Are you transferring up because you want to be able to prove yourself to get to the NBA? Are you transferring up because you want to be able to have a shot to play in the SEC and play a role on a team that can end up doing something special, right? There's enough pieces on this roster that they can go out and they can make some noise in the SEC. They can make a run in the NCAA tournament. So I think it kind of goes to the players and the people that you're identifying and going out and recruiting. So let me ask you guys this. For my money, I think that the key to this team kind of hitting a ceiling is going to be finding a way to replace the shot creation of Trey Mann. Like, it's just so valuable at the college level when you're a coach to have a guy where you can just give him the ball at the end of a clock and say, all right, Trey, go get us something. We need a shot, make something happen. I don't know who that guy is this year, but it does feel like there are 3 or 4 guys on the roster that it could end up being. And I don't know if that's a benefit, if that's a doubt, but, a Tyree Appleby, a Brandon McKissick, a Flanders Fleming, who also happens to have the best name in college basketball. So I don't know where you are at with that, Pat, but I do think that it's finding the guy that can kind of be that late clock go-to player or something that's really important for this group.
Absolutely. But with college basketball, you would hope that your team isn't going to have to be in those situations as much as you would like, where it comes down to a last shot or what I kind of noticed with Coach White's system the first few years. I'm not sure if it was just the players or just they're not understanding of the game, but it just seemed like getting easy baskets was something that we just really struggled with. We really had to fight and claw for transition, for just getting these baskets that would give us some reliable offense where we wouldn't go long spans without scoring, without getting a field goal. So I'm not sure. I love Tyree Appleby as far as returners. He's got to be my favorite guy coming back, and he's been able to take some really nice shots. He's been a little loose with the ball a little bit later in the season with some turnovers, and maybe his shot selection at times wasn't always the best, but I just loved his consistency and his mindset, his attitude. Coming into those situations where you need a bucket, who are you going to go to? Trey Mann was phenomenal at that. His little sidestep pull up three, or just it was so like sneaky too. Like you could be right on him, and all of a sudden, and just like you have no chance to contest that. So we're really wishing him the best. But I have no doubt in my mind that as the season goes on, you just hope that the team is going to continue to get better. Each player is getting better throughout the season. And that whoever's going to need to step up will be ready for that moment. Always stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Well, Pat's team, his last team at Florida, was spoiled because not only did they run great stuff, but they had a guy who could do something at the end of the game or at the end of a possession, and that was Scotty Wilbeck. And of course, I'll be frank here, Rob and Patrick, I don't think they have a guy like that this year. The closest thing might be a Myron Jones because he's the best shooter on the team, but he's not this guy who's going to break you down and rock you a little bit. They're going to have to rely on what they do best, right? What they think they're doing best right now. And the last couple of years, just calling it like it is, they weren't a very good passing team at all. And I want to say last year, Noah Locke maybe had 17 assists on the season. Scotty Lewis, you were talking about Tyree Appleby being loose with the ball, which he was late in the season. But I think it was because he was trying to make things happen, maybe at times that weren't there, trying to dribble through double teams or through people to try to create some stuff that really wasn't there. Scotty Lewis was a guy who turned the ball over too much, who wasn't a great passer. Their strength this year could be an all-around ability to pass. Myron Jones is a really good pick and roll passer. Fleming, great name, is a pretty good passer. And McKissick is a guy who will get the ball down and go in there and try to make something happen and kick the ball if he can. So it's going to have to be a collective team, but I don't see go get us one guy right now. If there is one, he's going to have to emerge in crunch time during the season.
I do think that there is something to say about having teams where you can have multiple guys kind of play that role, right? Like maybe last year teams could kind of gear up and throw 2 and 3 guys at Trey Mann anytime he had the ball at the end of a clock, because you know basically what he's going to do. When you have 3 different guys that can be a threat, maybe that kind of keeps the defense a little bit off balance, but it also hurts when you don't have a first round pick on that roster, right? You mentioned Myron Jones. I do think that he's one of the more underrated additions in the SEC this year. I don't think it's getting enough attention. I mean, the kid averaged 15 points a game in the Big Ten last year. He's one of the best shooters probably in college basketball this season. And having a guy like that is a really good way to space the floor for the big fella Colin Castleton in the middle, who I think is one of the more exciting players. So, Chris, what do you think we're going to see out of him this year? Do you think he's going to take another step forward? And did you see that breakout last year? Did you see it coming?
You saw he was. I mean, we didn't have him the year before to evaluate him, so we couldn't really see anything from him then. But you saw in practice how hard he was working, and you saw him clearly overtake Omar Payne for the position, for that starting 5 position, and got the minutes, and he was rewarded for it because he worked hard and was very, very productive. Now he went into the NBA underclassmen process and found out some things he has to do. And he came back, and he's worked on kind of being a guy who's going to get the ball a little bit at the high post, maybe face you up a little bit, maybe see what he can do in a drive. He can hit shots. Maybe he's worked on his ability to maybe hit that elbow jumper, something he didn't do a whole lot of in the past, but a lot's going to be expected of him. He was SEC Player of the Week, I think, twice last year, second team All SEC, and I think he surprised a lot of people. But yes, to your point, pick and rolls with him and Myron Jones, or him and McKissick, him and Flan, whoever, is something that the Gators are going to use probably as their bread and butter. And Patrick knows how important it is to have they talk about positionless basketball, but man, if you have a big inside presence, it can really, really make a big difference, like he was.
Yeah, in college, you can still kind of overwhelm teams with size. I don't think you can necessarily do it in the NBA because dudes are just too good. But in college, I think that you can still do it. Patrick, let me ask you this. Chris just mentioned that Colin went through the NBA pre-draft process. When you're one of these big guys and the NBA teams are saying to you, okay, we want to see your perimeter game. Okay, you need to develop this to be able to get to the next level.
I know where this is going. Good question.
How difficult is it to balance doing what you do well to help that team win and developing what you would theoretically need to be able to develop to get to the next level, right? Like at one point, or at a certain point, the best thing that Colin Castleton does is kind of roll to the basket, finish around the rim, be bigger than everybody in college, be dominant around the bucket. But maybe to get to the NBA, he's got to be the guy that can step out and shoot 40% from 3 and put the ball on the floor against closeouts, whatever. How difficult is it to kind of balance that?
It can be extremely difficult because obviously you have dreams of making it the next level, and now that things are different, you can get direct feedback as far as what you need to do from people outside of your staff, outside of your head coach. But that stuff can get in the way of you doing what you do best and focusing on your job. What Chris is alluding to, which it makes perfect sense. Going into my senior year, I felt as though I wanted to have a bigger role with the team. I wanted to be, after 3 years of having Irvin Walker and Kenny Boyd, and just so many times being a screen setter and rolling and not getting the ball as much, you can't, and only getting a steal. I had felt like I really wanted to be able to expand my game to help the team. But first, what I could have done a better job of, which I know Colin has done a fantastic job, because when he was at Michigan and I had him on my podcast, he just told me how he was a workhorse and a sponge. He had the attitude, he had the work ethic. His teammates saw him, his coaches saw how much effort he was putting in, even though he wasn't getting the minutes. And then maybe there was some disconnect with me with that when I was in practice it's one thing doing it outside of practice on your own time and the drills, et cetera, and then incorporating them. Then it's another thing to be like when you're doing the drills and running the plays, and you're not converting, you're not scoring, you're holding the team up because you have this own agenda, and you're actually hurting the team more than helping the team. That's when it becomes a problem. So, my advice would be for him just to continue to work. Like even if it doesn't come to fruition at the time you want, don't lose sight of the work that you still can continue to work on and improve, but don't go away from your strengths. Don't ever go away from the things that put you on the radar and allowed you to be that dominant player that you were in the first place. Because if you're not doing your strengths, taking advantage of those things, and you're doing things that are hurting the team, you're regressing at that point. So just hopefully along the way, the coaches are going to be able to be upfront and transparent, and to help him just to stay exceptional as he was last year, and if not even better.
So the last thing I want to do here is just kind of take a big picture of what Mike White's tenure has been so far. On the one hand, when you look at a big picture, he's been to 4 NCAA tournaments in 6 years, and it would be 5 if 2020 wasn't canceled. He's never finished outside of the top half of the league. He finished second in 2017, I believe. He's made an Elite Eight. At the same time, they haven't really pushed for the SEC regular season title. They haven't been out of the first weekend since 2017. And when you're at a school that was in a Final Four in 2014 that has 2 national titles, there's a certain level of expectation. So it's kind of a tricky balance, right? In terms of saying, okay, we're doing better than 99% of Division I schools are doing. At the same time, we're not quite living up to the level that was the precedent of this program for the last 2 decades. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about, like, where does it kind of stand?
They haven't competed for SEC championships. They also haven't had NCAA investigators on their doorstep, like some of these other schools that have made quick fixes and quick jumps and won championships, be it, Auburn's dealing with that right now. LSU is dealing with right now. Some of these I can mention a couple other SEC schools that were involved in the FBI situation. But to your point, I understand completely. The expectations at Florida are to win and win big. Patric Young went to 4 straight Elite Eights, for goodness sakes, and of course finished his career in the Final Four. But the Mike White haters hate it when this is brought up, but people forget Billy Donovan went 5 straight years and never got out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament before finally punching the quote unquote glass ceiling and winning the whole thing. No other team in the SEC has been to the last 4 NCAA tournaments. Mike White has. There's 8 teams in the country that have won a game in the last 4 NCAA tournaments. Florida is one of them. I think the expectations at Florida are tilted way out of proportion because of what Billy Donovan did. He was a generational coach, maybe one of the 5 greatest in NCAA history when you consider what Florida was as a basketball oasis before he got here. So it's an improper measuring stick if you're rolling it up against that. But this year, this is a really tough call because of the way college basketball has just completely tilted upside down on its head with this whole transfer situation. Things can change. Kentucky's no longer a one and done team. They got a couple of the best transfers in the country this year, including a 2,000-point scorer from Davidson. When Florida lines up for their first game, they may have, get this, guys, 4 guys on the team that'll be 23 years old, maybe all in the starting lineup. There's probably a couple NBA teams that wouldn't say that if they line up for the starting season. So I don't know what's going to happen with this season. I mean, the expectations will be what they are. But I think to your original point, Mike White's took over an impossible situation. It's really hard. Bill C. Spurrier says, hey, you never want to be the guy who replaces the guy. Well, he was the guy who replaced the guy, and Florida basketball is still relevant. People still care. You can't say that about some other places. I mean, there are people who think that who they hired in Indiana? Help me out. I'm going brain dead here.
It's Mike Woodson right now.
Before that, Archie Miller was supposed to be the guy who came to Florida. I don't think he went to an NCAA tournament. So a lot of people were wondering about that. Mike White stepped into a difficult situation and has kept Florida basketball on the map, and he's optimistic about where it'll be this year.
And the one thing I would add to that is I think you can make the argument that last season on paper was probably the best team that he's had, and there's nothing you can really do about having your best player go down 4 games into the season. So,
but people weren't even talking about that in February and March.
Yeah, well, they probably should have been. So, anyways, listen, guys, I appreciate the time. I thank you both for doing this. And Patrick, I'll tell you what, if you just send me your address, I'll make sure to send you a shirt that has some sleeves on it, maybe a collar or something for the next episode.
I'll send him one of mine, but he won't be able to fit into it.
Make sure to send the field of 68 on there. And it's a deal.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.